Hey everyone, it's Lavaniel again, and I know I just released a video looking at the developer direct for Doom the Dark Ages, but something that's been sitting on my mind is the gameplay loop. Now, I know I wouldn't discuss it in that video, at least that ended up being 30 minutes long, but I couldn't help but want to think about how I'm going to plan my strategies and how I'm going to play Ultra Nightmare with this new game. There's just so much to unpack. Unfortunately, the developer direct video is not a one size fits all to answer all of these questions, and I will show you specific examples about why I'm saying these things, but I do want to dissect some of the gameplay a bit closer. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create this little video here where we're going to dive into the weapons, the gameplay loop, the HUD, and even the progression system. And again, I have no additional information, not from any developer for any means. This is just based off that developer direct and just a little bit closer analysis of that. We'll start by analyzing the weapons that were shown in the trailer. So, I'll start by talking about the Super Shotgun. Just like in previous Doom games, the Super Shotgun is kind of the star of the show. It is a very short range weapon with a wide reticle. Initially, I thought it might have went back to the Doom Eternal mechanics and shared ammo with that other shotgun shown. I still think they might do, but they do have different symbols for both of those guns. They're minutely different, at least what they showed at the developer direct, so I assume they'll change those by the time that the game is released. But what I can tell is the super shotgun is obviously that close range weapon that deals massive damage and maybe does a less like farther range away damage than what the other shotgun would do, which I assume is a variant of the classic combat shotgun we've been seeing since Doom 2016 and even earlier classic Doom games. Another caveat to the super shotgun is that it appears that it only takes one unit of ammo per shot, unlike in Doom Eternal, where the super shotgun would take two shotgun shells, logically, and the combat shotgun would only use one, and they shared those ammo types. Maybe that will be fixed in the released game if these do share ammo types, but they could be completely different ammo types. So let's talk about that other shotgun. The other shotgun that I'm going to call just the combat shotgun seems to have a smaller reticle, but also seems to make up for that in range. How I think this is happening is that this is actually a shotgun that shoots slugs, so solid ammunition. And if you slow down the gameplay, you can see just how big these shells are. I don't think this is the equivalent of a heavy cannon like in Doom Eternal. I do think this is actually a shotgun just because of how similar this gun behaves to the super shotgun. This next weapon seems to take the place of the heavy cannon from Doom Eternal. Now, I also think that it kind of fits the role of a plasma gun too, but we do have the double barreled plasma gun that I'll show next. I think this weapon will be our long range, sort of rapid fire weapon, so I do think heavy cannon without the scope attachment is exactly what this weapon will kind of act like. And while I wish they would just go ahead and release the official names of all these weapons, I'm just going to give you what I think they would be called, and it's probably going to be wrong, so just forgive me. If you've heard an official title somewhere, then sure thing, I apologize for that being wrong, but for now, I'm just going to call this a heavy cannon like weapon. Given how rapidly it fires, it probably doesn't deal that much damage, but it is quite precise. So it will likely be used to kind of shoot enemies from afar, maybe fodder to help finish up for those glory kills, but that might be its only use. I am not a huge fan of the plasma gun by itself. I do like the heat ray attachment, especially in the earlier parts of Doom Eternal's Ultra Nightmare campaign run, but I can see where this might be useful, especially as my gameplay and style changes completely with Doom the Dark Ages. So let's keep an open mind. Hopefully, this weapon will be quite useful. Here we have another weapon that seems to make a return, albeit in a mix from Doom Eternal. This looks to me like a chain gun with double barrel plasma ends on it. Whatever this gun is intending to be, it's clearly powered by Wraith energy, which fits within the Doom lore. But what I want to point out is this seems to return the same general mechanic in that the chain gun in Doom Eternal is great for staggering a lot of demons, so it looks like that's exactly what it will do. It fires fast, maybe doesn't deal that much like true damage compared to the super shotgun, but it does stagger a lot of the heavier demons. I think this will be a very useful weapon. But before I move on to the next weapon, I do want to point out it looks like this plasma gun will have some kind of weird arc lightning effect that can stun demons in a radius. So it might be very similar to the plasma rifle modification you could get in Doom 2016, which I find to be very broken. The next weapon I will discuss is the nail gun. The nail gun is the single target high damage weapon that can pin demons against the wall. This weapon seems to be poised for mid-range, as I believe logically this weapon would have a pretty signature arcing to those nails. This weapon is slow and reloads even slower, but it seems like it makes up for that in high single target damage. I think this will be what we were looking for when we were looking for replacement for the heavy cannon with the scope attachment or the ballista. Let's talk about the Skull Hacker next. The Skull Hacker is a gun that chews up literal skulls and spits those pieces as their ballistic weaponry. This weapon is poised to be a short to mid-range weapon and seems to excel at taking down low health targets like fodder. So it seems better as more of like a grenade type AoE weapon rather than something you would pull out for a heavy demon. But time will tell. This seems to be the crowd control weapon of choice. I saved this gun for last because it's only shown in one clip in the developer direct video. I'm not sure what to call this gun, but if you slow it down, it seems to be very similar to a rapid fire version of the nail gun, although the ammunition seems to have like an arrow broadhead at the end of it. Perhaps this is the nail gun with an auto fire modification on it, or it's a whole unique gun on its own. Regardless, I'm not sure what ammo type it will be using, but it is a very interesting addition as it doesn't seem to operate like any of the other guns we've seen so far. And of course, while making this video, I uncovered yet another weapon that literally gets 1 second of being shown but is never fired throughout this video. Truth be told, I don't know what this weapon is. Given this kind of green color, is this the BFG? Who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. To recap our weapons, it seems like the standard shotgun ammo will be returning. Again, I'm not sure if we're going to be sharing ammo types, though that mechanic in Doom Eternal seemed to be really interesting and making you use the most of your kit before using your next chainsaw. So I do think it is possible it will return. There will also be a rocket-based weapon, though the only image we have from it is from the Steam store page. There is no live videos of this right now, so I'm glad that you guys were able to tell me about it because I would have missed it entirely. I think we're going to see plasma cells return, and those would definitely probably be a shared ammo type. However, I'm not sure about some of the other ammo types in the game. I really don't have an explanation for these until we get further information about the individual weapons. What I do know is there seems to be a distinct lack of ultimate super weapons, but maybe that ties into the trailer they first showed, that the Doomslayer is the super weapon, not the BFG 9000, not the Crucible, not the Sentinel Hammer. So that's going to be a complete kind of distinction away from other Doom games, so we'll just have to see how that plays out. Probably the most important aspect, at least to Ultra Nightmare runners, is resource management and how we get our ammunition back. From what I can tell, there are a few ways to regain your ammo. One, it seems that glory kills seem to drop a little bit of ammunition. And again, I will preface with the difficulty sliders in Doom the Dark Ages and this being like early access, like beta footage, a lot of these drops are probably not going to be final, so don't take my word for how much it's going to drop. Just follow along with my observations. Another way to recover ammo seems to be tied into the melee system. This will be the first Doom game where melee weapons really are a central focus along with the gunplay. So let's talk about those 3 weapons. There will be the Iron Flail, the Doom Mace, and an Electrified Gauntlet. I really don't believe id would ever put weapons into a game that fundamentally act all the same, they just look cosmetically different. So I'm going to have a bit of some theory crafting to figure out what each of these weapons would do and how they would fit into the gameplay loop. So let's start with the Iron Flail. The Iron Flail to me seems like a weapon that would probably be the one with medium range. I say that because the chain can only be so long, but also I've never seen it used super up close, but it seems to be a high single target damage weapon. Next, let's talk about the Doom Mace. The Doom Mace was the weapon that I tried to kind of demonstrate what it looked like with that weird concept art by Emerson Tung. But it seems like it is the single target, heavy damage, up close and personal finishing weapon. This will be the thing you use when you want to club something hard, fast, and you want them out of your way. And lastly, the Electrified Gauntlet. I think this will operate very similarly to the Blood Punch, with one major exception. It has a massive crowd control area of effect. As you can see, when they do punch the Mancubus, there is this great, like, kind of arcing of lightning that seems to move from enemy to enemy. So it's almost like a chain reaction. I think this is going to make for some very interesting gameplay, as this will allow you to control the fight a little bit more effectively instead of just standing and reacting to what the enemies are doing. So this is probably a callback to the Doom Eternal gameplay, just more or less a hint rather than a complete return. One concern I have though with the melee system is currently the HUD does not showcase a way to know which weapon we have selected. What I mean is that in Doom Eternal, it was pretty obvious whether you had the ice grenade or the frag grenade selected and ready to fire from your equipment launcher. That makes me think that perhaps all of the melee weapons are on completely different controls, i.e., maybe the flail is connected to G, maybe the mace is connected to V, and maybe the electrified gauntlet is connected to E. Those are awful controls, please don't take my advice for that, but I'm just curious on how that's going to work, or if they're going to give us an indicator of which weapon is currently ready to strike next. Even though I covered the HUD in a little bit more detail in my last video, I am going to once again dive into it and examine it just a little bit more in terms of the gameplay loop. But for now, let's go to the very last weapon, which seems to be the signature icon item of the game, and that is the Shield Saw. Leave it to Doom to create a weapon that is both offensive and defensive at the same time, and yet showcases a great deal of utility. The Shield Saw, as the name suggests, is able to deflect a lot of the incoming damage towards you. The parry system will be integral to the game, at least to move demons into some kind of stagger state. There has already been some controversy about the addition of a parry system to a Doom game, but we'll have to see how that feels to really have a good opinion of it at this time. So for the moment, it could be an incredibly useful tool, but also it's another mechanic to master. It also has the ability to be thrown and returned to you, sort of like a Captain America's shield, but also can be embedded into enemies to deal overtime damage while keeping them in a stunned state. I am unsure at this time how we can switch, though according to the developer direct video, this is all from one input. So there might be something you can toggle to change how you want the shield to interact, or perhaps there's an indicator on the HUD that I haven't really seen yet. The shield also comes with a signature shield bash, which seems to be toggleable based on this indicator that pops up on the HUD. And we do know that the Shield Saw is able to interact with a lot of the unique elements of the environment, including traversing chasms, magnetically attracting the Doomslayer towards the shield, and overall activating switches and levers that he might not be able to reach. Overall, it's a very versatile tool. The shield is also vital for regaining another valuable resource in Doom the Dark Ages, and that's armor. In Doom Eternal, armor was restored via the Flame Belch. In Doom 2016, it was only restored via pickups, but in Doom the Dark Ages, the shield seems to be so critical to restoring armor. The shield doesn't seem to be involved with regaining health, though that leads me into my next topic, and that's the Glory Kill system. The redefined Glory Kill system is unique as ever. Instead of these predefined animations that lock you into doing certain moves based on the angle at which you approach the staggered demon, it seems like we are going to get an indicator that tells you this demon is in a glory kill state, and you get the options of how you want to finish them. I'm not sure what that actually means, if that means if one input tells you to punch right hand and one input tells you to punch left hand, and those different inputs for kicks and shoves and everything else. But it seems like the system is going to be very intuitive and it's going to give you a lot of freedom. And according to Under the Mayo, there will be AoE glory kill systems in place to do large group damage. But the glory kill system, as ever, always drops health when the demons are killed, So we do know it is so critical to that gameplay loop. And throughout the developer direct video, there's a couple little what I call halos that seem to be the new glory kill indicators. The orange seems to indicate that you can either hit them with the melee weapon or they're in the glory kill state, and I believe the purple halo indicates that that's the final finishing move. Perhaps there is a gameplay mechanic where certain finishing moves, like either a kick or a punch or whatever else you want to call it, may yield you different resources down the line. We'll just have to see with the progression system, which I'm going to talk about next. Just like in the previous modern Doom games, we are getting a gradual progression system. It seems like it's still pretty early on, at least what they showed us the developer direct, so I'm going to have this just image still here posted to kind of talk about a few things that I do notice. So let's talk about the top right section of this image. We have 5 different sections here that all seem to be an upgrade system. I believe that left icon is a mountain, the next one over is a pair of guns, the shield obviously because we are on that menu right now. I'm not sure what this next image is. At first I thought it was like brown Adson tissue forceps, which is a surgical instrument. It could also be maybe perhaps weapon modifiers because maybe it's like an underbarrel grenade launcher. And then we have a checkmark box, so maybe that's like challenges or achievements throughout the campaign that you can upgrade and get special achievements for finding things in the world. With the environment upgrades, I'm going to assume we're just going to return back to some of the earlier modern Doom upgrades, like no explosive barrel damage or faster pull-up ledges time, sort of those things. I'm not sure what else that would be, but maybe also it could be like an auto map of some sort. I think the gun upgrades are pretty obvious. You're going to get better weapons, as you can see with the shields, because the one upgrade we can see in this image is the aftershock, which means the distance the ground fissure travels is increased. So clearly the shield mechanics are going to be a lot more in depth than what's even shown in this video. But what I do like about the upgrade system is we have a standard base upgrades. And it looks like we'll have an increased sort of shockwave from parrying. We'll have probably a parry window upgrade, and it looks like a scythe with plus signs there. I'm going to guess that means that we'll get more resources, aka armor, from using this shield appropriately. And then we get a very interesting rune system that kind of gives us a lot more freedom with how we use the shield. It seems that the rune system is coming back, though it seems to be a lot more in-depth than in previous games. While I do love the runes because it gives you like your own playstyle selection, this seems quite in depth. I believe this works in a very similar manner to Space Marine 2. So what I mean by that is there's obviously 4 columns here, and you can select one of those columns, and after that you can then unlock all of the perks in that column, or perhaps you have to select one of them. I'm not sure yet. But what I can see here is this person has obviously selected the first column. They've then unlocked the first perk, and the next perk, which seems to be an upgrade of that first initial perk, is then available for unlock. There's also clearly a currency system in place, though there's no information on how you gain currency, only that you can spend it to upgrade these perks. Again, it is unknown if there is an upgrade system related to the Praetor suit, as that has been a traditional upgrade system from the past 2 games. Maybe that icon towards the right of the shield is supposed to be a gauntlet of some sort and it's just not yet finalized. Who knows, or maybe it's tied into the environmental system. We'll just have to see. The fact that there are 2 pickups in the game that remind me of the original Wraith crystals from Doom Eternal do make me think that there are suit or armor upgrades some way or another, but they're not yet elucidated. Again, this is a work in progress, so this menu is likely going to change quite a bit, but it does give us an idea that that is how the progression system will work in the final product. So let's quickly discuss the HUD before I wrap up this video. I'm just going to move from left to right and discuss the things that I notice. So on the left, we have this shield symbol here. The solid bar that's the leftmost inner part of the shield seems to indicate how much health the shield has left to block. The glowing teeth of the shield saw on the outer rim seem to indicate when you have the ability to throw the shield saw. I also noticed that not every throw seems to deplete that bar completely, so you may get perks down the line that allow you to get multiple throws out of one bar. It seems like it incrementally just comes back, so not sure yet. It's unsure how the system refills itself, whether it's time based, glory kill based, or just based on the distance the shield travels and there's just recharge time. So as of right now, I don't have a clue. This small saw-like symbol to the right of the main shield saw, I still don't know what it is. It could be a rune of some sort of how like air control and those other runes would kind of be at the bottom of your screen on Doom Eternal. I'm not sure yet. We'll know when we know. I always enjoy the reticles that Doom brings to the table. They're very unique and they showcase the weapon spread, which a lot of games like to hide for whatever reason. They also have a little bit of information beside of them. In Doom Eternal, you could have the number of blood punches, the number of gas pips, a few other things around that reticle. It seems like that is returning with the melee pips visible as those little droplets just below the reticle. Next, we have our armor indicator and health indicator. The armor indicator is on the left and health is on the right. And I did talk about in my prior video how I wish that those right angled areas would kind of move just a little bit up and down as we lose health and armor, as I don't much prefer looking at numbers rather than more of a visual indicator. I absolutely loved how Doom Eternal's HUD looked, and I'm definitely going to miss it. But I do want to point out something interesting that one of you commented on my last video. So shout out to Levidian who commented that there is a clip where the face and the HUD is much more detailed and looks more like the Doomslayer. That is absolutely true, and honestly, I love this version so much better. I really do like the classic Doom Guy face, and I do enjoy this return. I love how the Sentinel armor seems to indicate that it scans the wearer's face and gives them an idea of how their health and vitals and everything looked. I think it's just a really neat aesthetic. So yes, I like this version so much better. I'm much more happier with this. So thank you, Levidian, for pointing that out. I love when you guys do stuff like this. Like, this is how we learn and get better, and this is honestly a pretty awesome catch. And next, we'll move over to the melee pips. Interestingly enough, when I was pulling out the clip for Levidian's comment, I noticed that they actually did add indicators that tell you which melee weapon is up next to use. And it looks like that button to switch is R if they're playing on PC. I'm not sure at the time if that's accurate because I do see an X in this little clip, and I see what looks like to be a cross button, and the shield indicator over there to the smaller one beside the bigger one has a LB button, so probably left bumper. So this may be a console edition sort of thing, so I'm not sure what the final buttons will be, but it is interesting to see that they are still adding and fixing things. So the HUD is not yet finalized, so that's all we can really go through for now. I previously discussed that it looks like the melee pips will slowly refill. I'm going to guess they're going to deviate from Doom Eternal by having them refill past 1, just because this game is clearly more based on the melee system than what Doom Eternal was. So we'll just have to see for now exactly how that refills. We also have our ammunition stores for each of our weapons shown there on the right, and it looks like you can use the directional pad to weapon switch. I never played any Doom game on a console, so I'm not sure what those controls really would be for PC. I do hope that we'll have the ability to quick switch with the number pads and everything, because I have an MMO mouse that I prefer to play with, and that's how I quick switch. The weapon wheel is really neat, but I do prefer just being able to hit 5 for my super shotgun on Doom Eternal, so I am hoping that is the mechanic that returns. And finally, of course, when pulling out Levidian's comment once again, I noticed this little strange icon up here. Maybe it's related to that weapon I showed earlier that kind of shoots those broadhead-like weapons. So maybe that's ammunition for that gun. I'm not sure what that could be though at the moment, but it is something I didn't notice in my last video. So again, thank you for pointing that out. I love finding new stuff when I make videos. I think that's what makes this all worth it, to be honest. So that is all that I have for this video. I'm sorry I couldn't go into more detail about specific combinations, quick switching, strategies, or anything like that, just because I don't have that information. I do love the quick switching and the weak point system that was introduced in Doom Eternal, and especially the destructible demons that was added with id Tech 7. But right now, all I know is what we have in these videos. so I apologize. I hope I wasn't misleading or anything. I did enjoy taking a deep dive at some of the new weapons, the new melee system, and honestly, the new progression system, because I didn't really tackle that in my last video. So I did learn a lot myself. I hope you're as excited as I am for this next Doom game. And I'll see you soon. Karantu.
Against all the evil that hell can conjure, all the wickedness that mankind can produce, we send only you. Rip and tear until it is done.